Welcome to your Weld County School District 6 Board of Education meeting. It's Monday, January 25th. This meeting will now come to order. Will you join me in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Ms. Berea.
Mr. DeWitt?
Present.
Mr. Haefele?
Present.
Mr. Hall?
Mr. Hall is excused this evening.
Mr. Lydiak?
Here. Present.
Ms. Pappas?
Present.
Dr. Richard?
Present.
Mrs. Solis?
Present.
6 members are present.
Thank you. The comments that I have as board president this evening are numerous but hopefully brief. The first is to congratulate our graduates from GAP, our Greeley Alternative Program. We graduated 30 students on Saturday, and just another example of the number of ways we try to make sure that our students graduate and move on to their next academic choices. As was mentioned in the room, but perhaps not to viewing public on TV, you might be noticing a few changes in the environment here in our boardroom. In conjunction with the City of Greeley, whose City Council meetings will be held here on Tuesday nights, our broadcasts will be conducted using City of Greeley equipment, and we're kind of in a wonderful opportunity of mutual sharing of this space and equipment. We're really proud to support our partners in having this be their living room for the next period of time until they have a more permanent place. Please do, though, forgive any little glitches that may occur. We're still working with the equipment. Next item, I'd like to remind folks involved in this have heard me mention the words engage, empower, and inspire. Those are parts of a program we're trying to focus on to remind ourselves and our teachers and our students of the goals that the board has for this year. And our work tonight will be highlighting the board's priorities, and these 3 words may pop up from time to time. The next item is that we did have a brief executive session in which we discussed the evaluation of our superintendent, who's been here for about 7 months, and the board had an opportunity to outline some of their observations and suggestions for the superintendent, and the public will receive this information within the next week or 2. So, the next item is hearing of persons desiring to speak before the Board of Education. Ms. Berea, do we have anyone identified to speak?
We do not.
Thank you. The next item is the board work session report.
Board of Education President Roger DeWitt began the work session with open comments from the board members and a review of the board calendar and upcoming events. Chief Financial Officer Megan Sponsler presented the proposed revisions to the 2015-16 budget. She reviewed the reasons for the revisions, and board members had time for questions and comments. Ms. Sponsler then presented the budget timeline for the 2016-17 year. She asked board members for their priority budget items and items they felt could be cut. These items will be taken into consideration as work on the budget begins. Superintendent Dr. Deirdre Pilch updated the board regarding the next steps for the strategic plan, Innovation 2020, which will be to define the action steps and to form a steering committee to review the action steps. That concluded the work session.
Thank you, Ms. Bray. Next item is the superintendent's report. Dr. Pilch, please.
Thank you, Mr. DeWitt. So first, a recognition, a celebration. District 6 Nutrition Services has brought a national recognition to District 6 as being selected as the K-12 Innovator of the Year by Food Management Magazine. This is a huge honor. Just over 5 years ago, District 6 began the shift from prepackaged processed foods to locally grown foods that are prepared here by our district chefs. So we're really proud of this award and proud of putting that fresh, healthy food out to all of our students. And then just an announcement, parent surveys are now ready. We do an annual parent survey at each of our schools, and those surveys are now ready for families to fill out. We have them available at the school sites, and as parents log into Infinite Campus, they're also available through Infinite Campus electronically. They are available in Spanish there online, but if parents wish to have it translated in another language, we will provide that as well. They can just work with their school to do that. And then, Mr. DeWitt, you mentioned that here we are at our new dais here in the boardroom, and I just want to give a shout out to the City of Greeley as well, and the tremendous partnership that I've enjoyed since I arrived here, and the support that the City of Greeley provides our school district. We are very fortunate, and this is just one more example of their willingness to help us to be better at what we do by giving us this opportunity to share that with them. And then finally, I'll just mention that all of us, board members and I, as well as a number of district administrators and teachers participated in a consensus negotiations training process last week. 3 full days gearing up for our negotiation season with our Greeley Education Association. And at the end of the 3rd day, we had identified four issues to work on, 4 committees that we will work on in committees that are a mix of district administrators as well as district teachers. You know, this is a tremendous move forward in the right direction. In the past, we would have sat at the table across from each other, squared off, and we each would have brought 6 to 12 issues that we wanted to work on. In less than half a day, together we identified 4 issues to go forward and do some true committee work on. So very proud of my colleagues on the board for participating in that and giving that time. Very proud of our Greeley Education Association and of our administrators. So that's a big celebration here as we wrap up January. Thank you, Mr. DeWitt.
Well, thank you. Time well spent, so says all the board. It was an extremely valuable experience. The next item is the approval of the agenda, which is an action item requiring a motion.
I move that the Board of Education of Weld County School District 6 approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comment or discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Ms. Brea.
Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
Mr. Haefele?
Aye.
Mr. Lydiak?
Aye.
Ms. Pappas?
Aye.
Dr. Richard?
Aye.
Mrs. Solis?
Aye.
And the motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. The next item is the approval of the consent agenda. That's an action item requiring a motion, and there is a motion on page 7, should you need it.
I move that the Board of Education of Weld County School District 6 approve items as presented on the consent agenda and authorize the officers to sign any and all contracts.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comment or question? Roll call, Ms. Brea.
Mr. DeWitt?
Aye.
Mr. Haefele?
Aye.
Mr. Lydiak?
Aye.
Ms. Pappas?
Aye.
Dr. Richard?
Aye.
Mrs. Solis?
Aye.
And the motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. Well, the next item is a special item, and so listed. Presentation to the Board of Education by City of Greeley Mayor Tom Norton. Dr. Pilch?
Thank you, Mr. DeWitt. It is my honor to introduce this agenda item. So several days ago, I received a call from Mayor Tom Norton asking if I had some time to meet and discuss our conversations around a possible ballot measure for the fall. And you know, when the mayor calls you and asks you to come to a meeting, you say, of course. And so I did, and was very pleasantly surprised that actually what the mayor wanted to talk with me about was the possibility of he and some of his community leader colleagues stepping up and in a way to support District 6 as we begin to study our ballot measure. And you know, this kind of a remarkable offer is truly unprecedented, and I am humbled by it, and I am touched by the generosity. And so with that, I'm pleased to invite Mayor Tom Norton to the podium to fill us all in on what he is proposing for us tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Dr. Pilch, and it is a pleasure to be here, and it's also a pleasure, I'll have to add, to the rearrangement here, and I'm glad that the City of Greeley was able to work with you, and you were kind enough to allow us to intrude on your space so that we can, save a little taxpayer money and move on to bigger and better things. So just one more example of how the school district and the City of Greeley work together and want to continue to work together. My proposal to you this evening is that I have met with a number of businessmen in town and have talked to them about the fact that I believe it is Greeley's responsibility and the community, the business community's responsibility to assist in any funding that's necessary to look at a ballot issue. And so I have gotten commitments from a number of people to raise the $20,000 that you have committed to that, because I believe that the community ought to pay that, not through the school district or taxes. You need your money to do the things you do with students. And so that's my direction and offer to you. I think that it was met with a fair amount of enthusiasm and with the community, and you know, it's never easy when somebody says, "Oh yeah, I'll just go raise 20 grand and give it to you," but I'm optimistic. So that's my offer to you, and I do this not as mayor of Greeley, but as a community individual who just feels strongly about what happens at the school district affects all of our city and how we grow and who we are and what we are, and work more directly with the school district to enhance our partnerships. And you know, what happens, the city of Greeley can't be great without your help. And I'm determined to see that Greeley is great. So that's my pitch. Be glad to answer questions, or you know, it's mostly get your blessing so that I can move forward and tell everybody that that's where we want to go.
Gee, I don't know. I may have to communicate with my colleagues to determine whether this is acceptable. But I do want to just say that partnerships are the generator of great ideas. You mentioned the money savings and the logic of sharing this living space. You'll be using it on Tuesday nights, and we're taking care of Mondays. I think it makes a lot of sense. But from you as a person working hard to generate that kind of support does reflect the attitude that community has about the schools. They need to be great, and we can help them be great if everyone pitches in. So if you'll wait there, I'd like to take my official presidential hand and shake yours, but only as a community member.
Okay. Well, that's more than welcome.
We thank you very much.
Thank you. No other questions. I'll be working with your staff and with the individual who's doing the polling to make sure that we run smoothly and get good community input. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so very much. Is there anyone else present who wishes to make a donation to the... No, all right, perhaps not. But thank you so very much. The next item is the blended learning update. Dr. Pilch?
Thank you, Mr. DeWitt. So, you know, District 6, our school district, has been on the cutting edge of blended learning, not only in the state of Colorado, but really in the nation. We are setting examples for schools throughout the country with our partnership that Dagan will talk about tonight. And, you know, I cannot take credit for this remarkable work that's going on in our schools around blended learning. But one of the people who can take credit has just come to the podium. I see that Dr. Dattery has sent Mr. Dagan Andrews to the podium here, and I'm excited to have him share his update of blended learning and the important work that's going on here in District 6.
Thank you so much. Good evening, President DeWitt, Superintendent Pilch, members of the Board of Education. I'm honored to share the compelling work happening in our schools. The work we are doing with blended learning, combining the best of traditional instruction with digital content, is far from typical and has the potential to have far-reaching positive impacts on student learning. In this report to you, I will provide an update in 3 areas: student achievement data comparing our blended versus non-blended schools, the next steps in our blended learning implementation, and finally wrapping up with the support our teachers and administrators are receiving through the implementation process. Let's take a look at our promising early indicators of how blended learning is impacting student learning. As we analyze these data, you will notice that some grade levels have taken 2 math assessments across our district, while others have taken 3. This is simply a matter of some grade levels finishing instructional units at different times than others. The graphs we are looking at today include 215 total classrooms with 93 blended classrooms. The orange bars represent our blended classroom assessment averages, and the blue bars represent the assessment averages across our entire district. As we compare test scores, we see in all grades blended classrooms are outperforming our non-blended classroom. The one exception is 4th grade Module 2. These results with blended classrooms outpacing our non-blended classrooms are consistent with what we found in our pilot schools last year. Of our 19 classrooms piloting blended learning last year, 15 of those classrooms outperformed the district average in their academic growth. Combining last year's results with this year's data, we continue to see a positive trend. With these data and anecdotal stories, we know that students can and do learn using digital content. The question is, how powerful is the combination of traditional face-to-face instruction and digital content that characterizes blended learning classrooms? In order to answer this question, we are partnering with Dr. Kristen Klopfenstein, Director of the Innovation Institute at the University of Northern Colorado, to conduct a formal evaluation of blended learning. As part of our ongoing implementation of blended learning across the district, we have, together with Dr. Klopfenstein, submitted an application to receive federal grant to do a first-of-its-kind causal research study. If funded, the study will research the impact of blended learning on the achievement of students in math and science in elementary grades. This will require at least 6 elementary schools to implement blended learning for the 2016-17 school year. We will find out whether or not we receive the grant early this spring. Even if we receive the grant, the ability to take part in the study is contingent upon having enough funding for infrastructure, digital content, and devices to support all 6 schools. One important aspect for blended learning to be successful is to ensure high-quality implementations by supporting our people as they transform their classrooms and schools. This is a journey of innovation, and innovation is messy. What creates order is having a system for managing the change process and making sure we capture the lessons learned along the way. The graphic on the slide represents a simplified view of this system. Our design work with schools begins first with having teams empathize by thinking about the students in their school and their needs. We then work to define the most significant problem or challenge getting in the way of student success. From there, school teams ideate by creating different blended classroom designs that address the problem they have identified. All of these ideas are then pulled together to create a prototype. Once the prototype is created, then it's up to the blended learning team to support school teams through the implementation process. By staying true to this process, we have learned a lot in a short amount of time, including how to align the different digital content providers with our offline curriculum, and how to use digital content reports and data to support teacher planning, just to name a few. Although our implementations this year have been strong, we know that this newly acquired knowledge will mean the next round of schools will receive even better and more targeted support. In addition to the implementation system I have just described, we also provide support in partnership with other organizations. The Relay Graduate School of Education has provided 3 foundational blended learning courses available to all District 6 teachers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And this is at no cost to our district. To support building administrators, we have partnered with the North Carolina State University's Friday Institute for Educational Innovation to deliver the first of its kind blended learning leadership training. Our local community is also supporting our efforts through donations to the Success Foundation. Donations are paying for the cost of registration and substitutes, providing 30 teachers the opportunity to attend the Colorado Conference on Online and Blended Learning. In addition to having 30 attendees, we are honored to have Tammy Hermance and Sharon Wright as representing our district at the conference. As we as we implement innovative practices, it is critical for our teachers to work in partnership across our district. That is why we are developing communities of practice. Communities of practice are teacher-driven professional learning opportunities. In these communities, teachers come together in order to share their successes and challenges, and then work together to continuously improve their practice. Finally, in partnership with Education Elements, we are educating all of our coaches to become blended learning coaches, in addition to their content and instructional expertise. All of these components are essential to supporting this transformational change. Our aim is to develop our internal support and capacity so that we are not reliant upon outside support to sustain this transformation. We have discussed our results, our next steps for blended learning, and how we are supporting our people. I think it's important for everyone to have a chance to see how all of this work plays out in the classroom for our students. This video does not focus on technology, but rather demonstrates the rich collaboration students are doing with their peers and the targeted time they get to spend with their teachers that the addition of technology enables.
Brendan's group, Hector's group that are working on papers, you guys are going to Khan Academy. And my Khan Academy choices are recommended on your computers, but they are also listed on the board so that you can find them.
3, 4.
I want you to take a look at what problems you got correct and what problems you still need more.
Now we need to get a denominator of 100.
Yeah, that way we could like divide it, you know what I mean? So we would get equal.
Shade in the green. Okay. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to find a way so we can find the right answer. So we're gonna have to, since right here it says 3 out of 4. So your denominator says 4. So then you can divide this into 4 equal parts, right?
So you're going to use this fraction to answer that question. So if there are 4 drawings, how many students will not win? How many students will not win? Anissa?
I think 96 students will not win.
Okay, and how did you get that?
Because,
So thank you for this opportunity. That was just a brief introduction of what a blended learning classroom looks like. And as you see, that technology kind of blends into the background. So thank you so much for this opportunity to share with you the great work that's happening in our schools.